This is the Apple 1 month overview reading for the month of February 2024. It's currently December 27th, 2023, 10:19 p.m. Eastern Time. Apple at the time of this reading is $193.15. That's USD. And the shuffle video for the Apple February reading was created on December 5th, 2023 at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Time. That's this video right here. The overall theme and behavior for Apple in February. So when you see the full card as the theme card for 1 month, it's indicating a significant opportunity that'll stand out amongst other opportunities on a 1 year chart kind of scale. It's cross, and usually there's a lot of price change there as well. Sometimes the full card is a gap down. Sometimes it's just like a really good opportunity. Sometimes it's a high. Sometimes it's a low. Looks like it's a pretty significant move to the upside here that precedes a sharp decline based on this unicursal. And this is another February reading where we have a unicursal that appears. A lot of the February readings have a unicursal that appears. This one's in, talking about March. A lot of them are the theme card. But in either case, it's pretty. We're either seeing a really sharp decline or we have one like just after February. And then the full card is crossed with an overbought crest that we sell off through multiple support levels on a multi-day scale. I'm advised not to chase that decline. I mean, and overall, it looks like a pretty mixed month, like many of the other February readings. The behavior around the highest high or highs for the month, we have a fast sudden move higher taking us into the high, and then behavior around the lowest low. Out of the lowest low or lows for the month, we have a notable rally along a diagonal trend line, breaking through horizontal resistance, meeting the second resistance, and then pulling back to somewhere between those two price levels. And we should also see a sell-off from an overbought crest down through multiple support levels into the low. Before we go any further, I want to make sure everybody's aware the whole purpose of the channel is to transmute some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. And we do that by following the rule of karma for the channel, which is a threefold rule between the universe, or agreement between the universe and anybody utilizing this information for personal gain. The universe expects anybody utilizing this information to profit to be following this rule, or they're going to shut you off real fast from the flow of abundance through this channel. 5% of all profits should be donated forward to one of these charities here, or pick a charity of your choice. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you send 5% of the profits forward to help somebody. Super, super important. And then 5% of the profits should be donated back to the channel to help us here at Tarot for Traders. Help me, help my team, and show your gratitude. It leaves you at 90% of the money, way more than a stockbroker would leave you with. Even a bad one would leave you with a lot less. With that said, make sure to spend that 90% out of love. As long as you follow those rules, you follow the rule of karma for the channel, the universe considers you an angel investor. It's going to send it back to you tenfold. Blessings to all my angel investors. Let's continue. So when reading a 1 month ESO meta analysis reading, we want to understand that these cards going horizontal from left to right across the screen, they're representing 1 day of the month, and you can see the dates are numbered above them and below them. What's important to understand is that not each card's energy will line up perfectly with 24 hours of time. So you have to give, in some cases, you have to give the timing plus or minus 1 day here or there, some wiggle room. In a lot of cases, that won't be necessary, but there will be cases where that is the case. And as long as you follow the sequence of events when that takes place, and just follow the sequence of events as predicted, that'll keep you on track in cases where we do find ourselves plus or minus off a day here or there on timing. So on the first, we have bearish price swings and a sell-off from a overbought peak down through multiple support levels into a prominent trough for the month. It's followed by a rally out of that trough into the 22nd. That rally ends on the 22nd. It might end at the end of the, it's hard to say if that rally ends midday or at the end of the day on the 2nd, but there might be a peak towards the end of the day on the 2nd. There's a peak at the end of the day on the 2nd. We likely open lower, I should say. And there's a prominent move higher to a prominent peak on a 1 month scale there towards the end of the day of the 5th, or on the cusp of the 5th, 6th. And then we have a full retracement from that move, that prominent move higher to reach the peak. We have a full retracement of that move back down into a trough on the cusp of the 6th, 7th. Actually, it's back down and then some, most likely, into what is very likely a low, one of the most prominent lows for the month. We'll talk about highest highs and lowest lows at the end of the video. Out of that prominent trough on the 7th, we have a lot of volatility, and there's an opportunity there. Matter of fact, in the midst of that decline from the peak on the 5th, 6th into the trough on the 6th, 7th, notable opportunity. There's also somebody speaking there. It might have something to do with something legal. So there's a speaker there. What they're talking about should not be trusted or relied upon. That trough there early in the day on the 7th, significant move to the upside. A lot of ground covered from the trough all the way into another prominent peak on the 8th. And that there on the 7th is one of the main opportunities I'm going to talk about in more detail in the paid version. On the 8th, we have a notable reversal off of that peak. The following day, we have a rally into key resistance there on the 9th, followed by a decline with consecutively lower spikes up on the way down. We should see probably 2 local highs there. And there's a trade opportunity. Trough at the end of the day on the 9th. Another prominent trough on the 12th with a big move to the upside out of it, taking us to a peak on the cusp of the 12th, 13th at a key resistance level where we kind of like flatten out. Trade opportunity there, and off of that peak there around the cusp of the 12th, 13th, there's also a notable decline into a trough around the end of the day on the 13th. Big move higher, turning into price swings on the 14th. Another trough in the early part of the 15th, and an unexpected move higher on the 15th, taking us into a failed attempt to break through key resistance on the 16th, followed by a decline through key support. Before we go any further, let's take a look at the December reading and see how we're doing. All right, so we have a prominent trough here around the 4th, 5th, and the 5th, 6th. And it looks like we have a lowest low here. We didn't indicate it as a lowest low, but we did have it as a prominent trough, and it's like 4th, 5th, and then again we have a low there on the 5th. So like there's 2 of them, right? Sharp decline on the 6th, and there's that unicursal. We go from like this, matter of fact, that unicursal's there on the 7th, with that fast sudden move higher into a peak on the 8th, and then you see there's that sharp drop. That's that unicursal drop into another prominent trough at the beginning of the day on the 11th. Notable reversal on the 11th, and you can see how we turn around and go to the upside. By the 12th, we're at a high. Off on that one, definitely off on that one. I don't have a prominent peak here. I should have a prominent peak here based on it being an Ace of Swords, so this isn't my best reading. I missed that. But Ace of Swords very often indicates a highest high. Then we have prominent troughs. Got those troughs. but it really messed that up. That's a pretty bad, in my opinion, mistake, aside from everything else being right so far. And then we go into more troughs, consecutively lower lows. I thought it was going to be a lowest low by the 20th. Not quite, but we did have this like consecutively lower lows from the 18th, move to the upside on the 19th, and then consecutively lower lows into the 22nd, with a lowest low I have here on the cusp of the 22nd, 26th, off of like a day on that. But we did have this prominent peak that formed on the 27th. We have that prominent peak, and then very likely we'll see lowest lows again at the very end of the month. So this is a solid reading, aside from me missing that one highest high there. I have the 7th, 8th as a highest high. It was a very prominent peak, but definitely not a highest high. I should have seen the fortune card. I don't know how I missed that. The fortune card and the ace of swords right next to each other, so obviously a highest high right there. Boom. So there you go. There's an example of why you always trade responsibly, even with this information, because the reading's always right. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to get it right every time. Sometimes I miss things. It's important for you guys to see that. That's why I leave this stuff the way it is, so you guys get an honest perspective of how accurate we are, and for the most part, very accurate. But occasionally we make mistakes like we did here. Cleo, if there's a peak on the 16th, then we likely open lower on the 20th, and there's this really big move to the upside on the 20th. Probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest move to the upside in the month. We push the upper end of a range higher on the 20th, and then there's like a decline from that move into the 21st. Out of that decline, though, there's a big move from the bottom of a range to the top of a range, taking us to another prominent high on a 1 month basis. And it's a brief peak that's easily missed, followed by a decline through multiple support levels on the 22nd. On the 23rd, there's an important range on a multi-day scale that's highlighted. Yeah, it looks like it's the upper end of a range, back at a prominent high there on the 23rd, and a notable move to the downside by the end of the day there. Gap down on the 26th, either that or a decline early in the morning on the 26th, but it's an unexpected move higher out of that decline, or either seemingly overwhelming headwinds or some sort of scary chart behavior that would make you think we're going lower. Instead, we rally higher, and we come to a prominent peak at the end of the day on the 6th, near overbought crest that we sell off from on the 27th, with a sideways fluctuating decline that precedes a notable rally, taking us into another prominent peak on the cusp of the 27th, 28th, where we break the resistance momentarily, and then we turn around and we break back down through that same price level shortly thereafter. Sideways rotation on the 29th, going from a peak price level where we're doing sideways rotation on the 29th into a trough probably the next day on the 1st of the following month. And then the sneak preview for the following month, there should be 3 pokes through the same trend line, followed by a sharp decline, and that unicursal hexagram energy that we're seeing on so many of the February readings. We also see it here in 2024 on the 10-year. It appears here for the sneak preview in March, so be careful. Be on the lookout for a pretty sharp drop off of these highs at some point. And that's Apple for February 2024. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. It really helps out the channel. Most importantly, make sure to follow that rule of karma. You know where to go. You know what to do. Blessings to all my angel investors. I'll see you guys on the next one. Stay tuned if you got the paid version.